Hi, I was asked by Joe Dumont, get my microphone over here, if I would go back out in the wheat field that Elohim gave us this year. Boy, let's stop and talk about that. What a miraculous year it has been. He literally dropped a field of barley into our laps, and then in the appropriate timing, he literally dropped a field of wheat in our laps. It has been just absolutely, for me, walking in a miracle this year for the beginning of the calendar. Anyway, Joe had asked me to go back out into that field and take a look in front of the group that is keeping the calendar a month later than us, in front of their Shavuot. And so I told him I would, this, of course, is not to say, ha 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 ha, you're wrong and we're right. It's not about right and wrong. It's about desiring to have everybody on the correct calendar, and that means barley when it's time for barley and wheat when it's time for wheat. So I went out in the field today, and it's always a pleasure to get out there once I get past the thistles that are taller than me. But it's just that location, I can't really describe to you how the feeling when you have when you stand on that specific piece of property. Yeah, it's just the most peaceful location I think that I've ever been on, and it's really hard to leave when it's time to come back. Anyway, enough about that. So let's take a look at the compilation of videos and photos I did from today, and then at the end I've got a little bit of an announcement that I'm going to tack on. So I'll see you back at the end of the video.
Just want to show you that this is why it gets harder to get in the fields as the season wears on. The green things die back and the thistles gain ground, so I'm going to push through there to find the wheat. Also, I'll give you a panorama view of what is going on. There's basically no grains left here. I mean, I don't know if you can see that busted head of barley right there. That's all the barley you see in this field. Everything is busted and dropped. All the oats are ghosts. They're empty shells. And so I'm going to go right down over that ridge right there and check on the wheat. Here's some wheat. I'm looking at the stems. I've learned with the wheat to look at the stems. And you can see that the stems are already turning brown. So that tells me, look, for me, I've started harvesting the wheat when the stems are brown. I'll take you over here, and you can see that that is all shattered wheat. See those stalks, how there's just a grain or two left on the end of each stalk. So this wheat you can see is all shattering, in the process of shattering or shattered. There too, it's shattering. All that shattering, see how short the heads are? There's just a grain or two left on the stalks. Okay, in my experience I have is that if the stem gets brown, that these are really too far gone to harvest. That stem needs to be more white than that. I mean, sorry, more color than that when it's that dry. This, even though this is a little bit green in the center, try to pull it back a little bit, just a slight tint of green. I'm going to tell you that's probably a fully mature grain of wheat. Let's see if I can do DeVore's trick and squeeze anything out of there. No. That is not squeezing at all. So that is well past any stage of moisture. You can see the longer ones have not yet shattered. All of these shorter ones have shattered. That's just the bottom few grains. They all shattered. I'm seeing, at this point, I'm going to go on around the corner, and it may be, because it doesn't quite truly face east, it may be that that side over around the corner, sharpen that and see if I can see if it's shattering. Yep, that's shattering in there. See those little short pieces with just like 2 hairs and 2 grains? There's some longer pieces in there, but look at the shorter stuff. It's missing that center. So I'll go on around the corner over here and look and see what condition that is in. This faces due east. Can pull it back. It's hazy, but that's Jordan over there. Not Jordan, that's, I'm sorry, the Golan, and behind that, hang on, that's Jordan. That second ridge back there, that second ridge behind that first ridge, that's Jordan right there on that ridge. So this is the Golan, and behind this part of Israel lies Syria. And that's totally east facing, so this is true east, and the stuff around the corner won't be true east, so it may not be as far along. Well, while this is not completely shattered and fallen to the earth, there's really not a lot left to harvest. I would say there's less than a fourth of what was that's not shattered, but that doesn't even mean you can harvest it. It means that if it's family wheat standing next to it is shattering, very, very good chances that when you put the sickle to the rest of that, it would also shatter. But you can see the tiny, tiny pieces in there left as compared to the taller pieces. I'm saying, I'm still estimating at this point, I'm going to go a little further. I'm still saying maybe 1/4 is left, and that hasn't shattered, and it's even questionable how much of that you could. Yeah, so it's just as I thought. See, I've got to turn significantly to find east. This is more, sorry, east. This is more of a north. That's the Golan up there. I mean, sorry, the Mount Hermon up there. And so this is more of a northeast orientation. And you can see that the grains, I mean, I do see some shattering. You can see the shattering up in there. But even with that said, these grains have not shattered as much. They're on their way. They're well on their way. You can look in there. You see lots of shattered wheat. I can even see some green wheat in there. Greener ones. You see the greener ones? So this northeastern side is not quite as far along. I'm going to take you back up the hill. Try to do a better job than I've been doing. This camera is great, but man, it's heavy. Okay, so you can see quite a bit of shattering there. Lots of shattering in there. Lots of single grains in there. Going around the corner. As we've talked about so many times, these fields don't ripen evenly, and that's a bunch, another bunch area of shattered wheat. Oh, I love it out here. Just adore it. Yeah, that's all shattered. Oh, I love this breeze. I love this. Everything about where I'm standing right now. It's hard to go home when I get out here. Hard to go back to the house. Look at, there's a lot of shattering, actually. I'm just going to give you a slow 360 in this little spot, just because there's enough of this beautiful wheat left that maybe you can appreciate what the Father's given us this year. Oh, just blesses me, blesses my socks off. And if you want me to say something prophetic, that His holy wheat is increasing. Those recreated in the image of the Word of God, the twain, the two sticks, one in the hand of Messiah. Those numbers are increasing this year, just like the wheat on the land has increased for us. Just a little side note, this year I'm going to be harvesting a few examples of the wheat in different stages, like super soft dough, medium dough, several stages, and letting them dry, marking them, letting them dry, and then planting them to see which ones of these germinate. I have got a strong gut feeling that the wheat germinates in an earlier condition than the barley. We need medium dough barley. I'm going to bet from my gut feeling that soft dough barley will germinate in this black wheat. I know this is going to be hard to see, but I also wanted to show you that there are these, it looks like the wheat is not as thick as it was, but here's what's happening. There are major patches of this wheat that's now turned white. That's all wheat. How can we tell? Well, remember there are two awns. For each breakaway on the plant. And so all of this is wheat that's well past harvesting. So here's my prognosis on the situation. And the second calendar group that are counting the Omer right now, for this wheat in the north, I can't speak for any other area because of that small window, and I've got to get that rhythm. Maybe next year I'll be able to get out and look other places for wheat, other areas. But in the north, which should be the last place that ripens, as they approach their wave sheaf for Shavuot, they may have the last of the last fruits available. I'm saying literally, they may be able to glean an omer out of this area to offer before it all hits the ground. But that omer would be all that would be left here. Things are, wheat, as I've said, even though our weather's cooler, it has a tighter point of no return. In other words, when it starts ripening, it really starts ripening, and it doesn't hold as long as the barley does. So, even though it's cooler right now, we're still talking 2 weeks, and the condition of the wheat is that more than 50% of it's shattering. More than 50% of it. I would even say 60% of it is shattering. And so in 2 more weeks, I don't expect that we're going to see very many little blackheads in this field at all. We're going to more than likely see in 2 weeks. I'm going to back it up a little bit. Things that look like that. Those shattered pieces of barley back there. Those little flecks that are left rather than the heads. And I would say in their Shavuot date, that's all we're going to see in the field is just little single grain flecks that are left.
Okay, so here's the announcement. At the end of Shavuot, I needed to go back into the real world or fallen world or society or however you want to term that, and do some things that had been deferred during the beginning of the year when I'm in the field so much. So I'm coming back a little bit now to another calendar project that I have desired to do since I found the wild wheat. And that is, now that we know that there's plenty of wheat in this area, the wheat that I grew this year and harvested, I'm going to use all of that and I'm going to grind that and I'm going to attempt to make a leavened loaf of this ancient emmer. And it's just thrilling at the prospect of thinking about how long it's been since anybody's harvested wheat on this land and tried to do anything with it. It's just thrilling to think about that grinding and that gathering of the yeast that's on the grains and adding the water, watching it ferment. And I plan on doing a step-by-step of that. I'll show you the grinding of it, the sifting of it, adding of the water, the whole 9 yards. And hopefully I'll show you the end product of one emmer leavened wheat loaf at the very end. So stay tuned for that as I play with this. I've got that mind. I've got I love research. I love to ask, how did they do that and how does that work? So I'm really excited for this project. So stay tuned and I'll take you along with me, and hopefully at the very end we'll have a beautiful loaf of this emmer wheat.